Have you started setting boundaries only to feel guilty the moment someone pushes back? Maybe you're hearing things like, man, you've changed, or wow, you used to always help. And suddenly you're questioning everything. Here's what most people don't realize: someone else's discomfort does not automatically mean your boundary is wrong. It may just mean that your relationship is going through some adjustments. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you counseling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Welcome back to Practical Solutions for PTSD and to the last episode in our boundary setting mini-series. Yay! We've made it! So this one we're going to talk about the very last step in boundary setting, and that is maintaining it and adjusting expectations, etc. So we're going to have some fun with this one. Before we start, I did want to offer you the boundary setting worksheet. So if this is something you want to do, step into boundary setting, and you need just a little bit of structure to that, you can go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/podcast. There's a banner right at the top, and you can request that. I'll get it right out to you. So again, go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/podcast. There's a banner at the top. It'll download it. It'll walk you through the 7 steps for setting boundaries. Many of them we've covered right here on this podcast, so it's going to be very familiar to you. This just gives you a little bit of structure. In some places you can take some notes, adapt some like those phrases that you're using to set boundaries. There's places that you can work through that and adapt how you're doing that for yourself. It's very simple, very straightforward, not complicated, but it will help you and give you a little bit of formatting to that. So just go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/podcast and get your free copy today. So after you've set your boundary, this is where it can get a little bit tricky because you're changing your behavior and this is going to impact those around you. And so you're going to be receiving some pushback or some surprise. You'll also likely be receiving some congratulations for the people that have seen this and been pushing for you to set boundaries. So you're going to be getting all these emotions afterwards. And so you'll need to learn how to ground yourself, to settle yourself in that, and to work your way through it. Because as I referenced, some people are going to respect your boundaries. They'll be cheering you along. They'll keep them. They'll come back and maybe ask for clarification, but they're 100% behind you. Other people are going to resist. If you started to make even small changes, pausing before you say yes, maybe even reaching for that no, creating a little bit of space, you may already be feeling this. There's a shift in the tone of people around you, maybe some subtle pushback. You might be hearing comments that sound like, wow, you've changed. You used to always help. Well, it's just this one thing. I just need your help with this one thing. And suddenly this takes you right back to that internal tension. Am I doing the right thing? I'm letting people down. Is this the right thing? Do I need to change this? Is this who I want to be? So let's just steady the rocking boat for a little bit. This is a normal part of the process because for a long time, whether you've realized it or not, people have adapted to your overgiving. They've learned that you're the one who always shows up. You're the one who always says yes. You're the one who can be counted on no matter what. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it speaks to the fact that you care, that you're reliable, that you have heart, and these are all good things. But over time, something else has been forming in those relationships, and that's an expectation. They expect access to you, and it becomes an assumption. So when you begin to shift, even in small ways, it doesn't just change your behavior, which changing your behavior is hard enough. It changes the dynamics in that relationship. For some people, that change can feel like loss, not because they're bad people and not because they're intentionally taking advantage of you, but because something that they've come to rely on, that they depend on, is no longer available. And this is where it gets really, really important not to misinterpret what's happening. Someone else's discomfort does not automatically mean your boundary is wrong. I'm going to say that again. Someone else's discomfort doesn't automatically mean your boundary is wrong. It often just means a relationship is adjusting and growth is uncomfortable. So here's something I want you to use to reframe the situation, to kind of flip it around a little bit that you can hold on to through this process. Love can stay, access can change. Love can stay, access can change. Just because you start setting boundaries does not mean you stop loving that person or stop caring about them. You can still care for them while changing how available you are to them. You don't have to withdraw your love to create space around your time and energy and your capacity. These two things are very different. In fact, what I have experienced myself and what I've seen in others is when you start guarding your energy and your resources, you're able to show up more genuinely and honestly and authentically in those relationships because you're not spread so thin. But when you've been used to overgiving, all these emotions can feel tangled up together, even though they're very separate. Loving someone and being always available to them, two separate things. But when you're used to overgiving, and this is what you have done for so long, it becomes very entangled together. Like one equals the other. Like if you say no, you're pulling away emotionally, but you're not. You're becoming more sustainable because if you keep going the way you're going, you're not going to have anything left to show up with. And when you do show up, you're so tired and burnt out, you're not able to give the way that you want to give. So let's make this very practical because one of the biggest questions that comes up here is, who do I say no to? And how do I know where to draw the line? So instead of thinking in terms of all or nothing, which is super easy for people like me who tend to be an all or nothing person, I want you to think in terms of levels of access. And not everyone gets the same level as you. So I'm going to actually walk you through an exercise that a business coach did for me. I'll have to let her know I used it today. She'll be quite proud. So on a piece of paper, you can draw a small circle, maybe the size of a small bowl. Just a small circle in the middle, size of a grapefruit. And inside that circle, I want you to write down all the names of the people, relationships that you have that are your inner circle. So these are going to be people that show up for you. They respect your time and your limits. They care about your well-being, not just what you can do for them. They care about you, and it's a two-way street. The relationship is bi-directional. They give to you, you give to them. They're mutual relationships. That support flows both ways. These people may hear a no periodically, but they're okay with it. They're the ones that are more likely to understand that no and even support you and cheer you on. So these are your inner circle, like inside the grapefruit circle. Those are the people that are in your inner circle. So then you can draw an outer circle. And these people, you still care about them, but they may be the ones that don't have the same level of closeness or mutual exchange, mutual support in that relationship. So maybe they tend to reach out, but only when they need something, or the relationship with them feels very one sided. You leave interactions with them feeling more drained than supported. They're not bad relationships and they're not bad people, but you may need some different boundaries around that. So, less availability, more of a pause before you say yes, making those yeses very intentional so that you know when you're saying yes that you're able to do that without robbing from the people in that inner circle or from the people that God has put in your life as ministry. And here's where it becomes really, really important. If you give everyone in your life inner circle access, you will live in a constant state of depletion because your time and energy are not unlimited. They are sacred resources that God has given you and that you need to safeguard and use in the places and in the ways that He has called you to use it. You are called to serve that inner circle and then anyone else, any place else that God has called you for ministry or that is, your job, your responsibilities, whatever that may be. So it's really, really important that you learn not just how to say no, but use discernment in saying no. Who gets the level of access that they can get to you, 24/7? Or even, even if it's not quite 24/7, but almost all the time. What is sustainable for me in this relationship? Where do I need more space? And this is where your faith can anchor this in a powerful way for those of you that are Christians and followers of Christ. Because when you live in overgiving, it can feel like, if I don't meet this need, who will? Isn't it selfish to step back? But we talked about this in the episode we did on biblical boundaries. When you look at the life of the apostles, they were called to preach the gospel of Christ. And so directly connected to that process, there were social ramifications that were coming out of that. But the apostle said, we are called to preach the gospel, not meet social needs. However, those needs are important. So they got someone else to handle it, but they did not deviate from their calling, the mission and purpose that they had. They stayed true and faithful to that. Same thing for your life. There are areas and places that you are called to minister to, that you need to show up for those people in your life, and you need to safeguard that and make sure you have the energy to give to them when you need to give it to them, and you're not spending it on all the people that's in that outer circle. So make sure that inner circle, you're guarding and protecting that so that you have the resources to do what you've been called to do. Because there's a big, big difference between being called to serve and feeling responsible to serve everyone and carry everything. Not every need is yours to meet. Just like with the apostles, they didn't meet the social needs, they assigned that to someone else. Not every need is yours to meet. You can be called to serve, called to give that yes, but be careful where you're giving it and making sure it's intentional and meets and lines up with your calling. You are not called to carry everything. So there's wisdom in knowing what is yours, what is not yours, and what needs to be released. Sometimes the most faithful thing that you can do is not another yes, it's a discerning no. The best thing you can do to support your mission, your calling, your purpose, the people that are in that inner circle, the people that you've been called to minister to, the best thing you can do is say no. Because you're guarding your time, you're guarding your resources to make sure that you can show up where you are called to show up and where you're supposed to be. Now, let's come back to what happens when people push back, because they might. Some people are going to cheer you on 100%. And I will say, when I started setting boundaries, I had fewer people push back than I anticipated. But that could happen and very likely will. When they do, you don't need to over explain yourself, you don't have to defend yourself, and you don't have to convince them. Again, just because someone feels uncomfortable with a boundary you set does not mean that you're wrong. Now, you may need to come back and explain a little bit, and that's okay. Don't over explain. You could maybe decide ahead of time how much information they need, but if they're still uncomfortable with it, it's okay. They'll adjust, they'll adapt. It's all right. Stay grounded, keep it simple, keep it clear, and keep it kind. It's kinder to say no to them, knowing that you don't have the capacity to meet the need, than it is to say yes and show up and not be able to perform the task. So let the boundary stand. Even when you're getting some pushback, they may not understand, they may get upset. It's okay. It's all right. You can't control their emotions. You can only control your actions. That's it. So let the boundary stand. Because over time, one of two things will happen. The relationship will adjust and you'll find a new, healthier rhythm, and you'll show up as two strong individuals that are giving in that relationship, and it'll be a much better relationship. Or it will reveal that the relationship was built on your overgiving more than mutual connection. So you may see an attrition in some of the relationships that you have, but this is not necessarily a bad thing. So I was talking about this with a coaching client the other day. It's very similar to a tomato plant. When you plant a tomato plant, the purpose of that is to produce tomatoes, right? But you get these suckers on the plant that suck the energy and the nutrients out of the plant and will decrease your production. You'll still produce tomatoes, but not as many as you do with those suckers on it. So the best thing you can do is to cut the suckers off, and it will make a healthier plant and you'll have a higher yield. Same thing with your relationships. There are people in your life, especially when you're an overgiver, there are people in your life that pull energy from you, that drain you, that keep you from producing where you need to produce and at the level you need to produce because you're spread too thin. So when you start drawing boundaries and the relationship doesn't adjust, you may see some attrition. And while this can be difficult to go through, and you can admit that in the process, this is hard, but it's also clarifying. It helps clarify your purpose, your mission, and it helps clarify your relationships. And you know who's the people that are supposed to be in your life and that support you in this process, and others that do not, and that are just pulling energy from you. So as you move forward, I want you to hold on to the steady rhythm that we've built over this series. I'm going to remind you some truths we've talked about. We're moving from automatic yes to intentional choice. And when you feel guilty over setting a boundary, guilt is not your compass. It's just an emotion. Resentment, when someone asks you to do something and you have that underlying resentment, it's a messenger and a very good indicator that you could be dealing with burnout. The ones that we learned today, love can stay, access can change. It doesn't mean you love them less. It just means you're changing and adjusting your access, their access to you. And then the last one we learned today, not every need is yours to meet. Although we did talk about this in a previous episode, but not every need is yours to meet. So just think about that and let those settle. Doesn't mean they're going to land perfectly. You may have to go back and work through them, and that's okay. But let them settle enough that you make different choices moving forward. And then here's where we'll close. A healthy boundary does not end relationships. We actually started this series by talking about the fact that boundaries are bridges, not walls. They actually help you to show up in relationships more authentically and more honestly. And it reveals which relationships can grow with you and which ones need to be adjusted as you grow. Either way, you're moving towards something more honest, more sustainable, and more aligned, one boundary at a time. One quick reminder, if you would like a copy of that boundary setting worksheet, just go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/podcast. There's a banner right at the top and you can put your request in for that worksheet. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.